Yeah, good. We're all back. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little about time management. Now, we've all got time. I guess, like me, I don't always manage it right, and I get to some. I don't know how many of you get to the end of the day and go, "What have I achieved today? Where's my time gone?" You know, I do still. There's days where I have days like that where I'm not sure my time's gone. But what I'm going to talk through is some very good principles of how and understanding kind of how to fit things better in your day, prioritize the urgent, not important. So can everyone see the two with rocks and stones in? Can anyone not see it? Okay. So on now, when Alex and I first discussed this, he would have liked me to have done this live. I decided that it'd be wiser to use a pre-recorded video. So that's what I'm going to show you. So just to kind of set the scene, you've got two jars. The one on the left has got sand in the bottom with pebbles and stones at the top. And the other one is a better mix. And basically the principle is the bigger stones, the rocks, are the things that you must do in that day. The stones are the smaller things that could move around in the day. And the sand are those things like watching social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, the things that kind of just are very fluid. Now you can see on the left, the jar has been stacked the wrong way. And the jar on the right has been stacked to make it much more efficient use of time. And the next video is about 3 minutes. It's so it's kind of around the Stephen Covey, if anyone's read the book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I'm going to now, if technology plays, going to swap over to a short video. So bear with me.
Getting distracted.
Okay, can everyone see the video on screen? Okay, great.
Yeah. By little things in life is easy. By starting your day with trivial activities, you will not have the time for the things that actually matter. Whether you are a businessman, mother of 4, or a professional, anyone can lose focus of the things that are important in life and fill precious time with meaningless things. In the 80s, Stephen Covey taught the importance of prioritizing the important things in life, which will enable you to do more than you ever thought was possible. His concepts still apply to life today. Even if you think you know all of this already, the visualization metaphor really hits home. This demonstration from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People will change how you prioritize. If you lack focus and want to do more important things in your day, you have to check out this life-changing video.
Okay, the video you're about to watch has no commentary. It's purely video with a bit of text explaining what's going on. But just what I learned from this, I read this book kind of, where are we now, 2020. So 12 years ago, I read this book 12 years ago, and it changed, or it started a change in the way I prioritized what I did, and it made a massive difference to both my professional, but also personal. And I'll come on to some of the things that I still use now based on what I learned from that book. So I'll start playing the video now. Did everyone get the concept? Did it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So by kind of taking your kind of important things, the things that you need to do and prioritize, and put those in your diary first, then put the smaller kind of tasks around that, the things that maybe could be moved if you needed. It starts to make the day far more efficient. I know sometimes for me, I'll kind of have a plan in the morning, and I'll start by I'll get a ping from LinkedIn, and before you know it, that ping to LinkedIn to read a message leads to other messages, and that's kind of how the time gets sapped up. And I'm sure we can all kind of sit there and go, yep, been there, done that, and get to the end of the day and go, that wasn't a great use of my time. When the slides come out, that link will be available. If you want to see it separately, we can send it out separately. Okay, so that's a kind of very useful way of explaining time management. The other thing with time management is how to prioritize, and this is the Eisenhower box. Actually, I was aware of this because Stephen Covey mentioned in his book. I didn't realize until recently it's called the Eisenhower box. I think, Alex, you pointed that out, didn't you?
I only pointed it out because I Googled it for this presentation.
Yeah. So if you think about how you prioritize your time, would it look like the grid on screen? And I think, we all, one of the things I've got in the habit of saying at the end of anything I do, the end of a day or a meeting, is, was that a good use of my time? What could I have done differently or better, knowing what I know? And I think, because that allows me to focus, or allows us to focus on continuing improving. And we talked about looking forward all the time. And by asking yourself kind of questions like that, allows you to come back to this and go, well, if we look at the urgent stuff, and then link that to what we looked at in terms of how we manage time, those are things we end up filling our day with, the urgent commitments, the urgent email that needs, the urgent meeting, or the critical issue that needs dealing with. But if we look at the important not urgent, and you'll see it's green, because that's where we need to focus more on. Because if we plan ahead, we get less of one. And I'll show you some examples of actually my diary. But what I try and do, and I'm sure some of you already do this, is plan 1, 2, 3 weeks. Some of my things are planned further because they're regular things that need to happen. So by planning, I'm planning, if something changes, it changes, but at least I've got something to move around and not an empty space in my diary. And then we've got the things not important, urgent. I mean, we all get them. Emails come in, social media posts, all ping on your phone. And if you're like me, you've got a laptop, a phone, an iPad, and I get 3 reminders for something. So I can't forget them, and you get distracted. And then if you're in the middle of an important job, that takes your focus off that. So your time is wasted. So we kind of need to cut those short, or delegate them, reject them, do something with it. And then we've got over here the distractions. And I mentioned about LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. They can be distractions if we're doing it at a time where we need to be focusing on either the important, non-urgent in the second quadrant, or having to deal with something that's come up urgently, because they always will. So I think, you know, what I've learned is taking the how to manage your time, how to fit the jar, my day, how to get the best out of it, how to get the most productivity, the most value, not just for me, but also for the clients that I'm serving. And therefore, to do that, I have to learn to plan and prioritize. And that's something that, you know, it's something you're not, I mean, some people are better organized, but it's always something that we need to be working on to continue to improve. Any questions so far? Either no one can hear me, or I'll take the silence as a no. Cool. So we've kind of looked at a methodology for time management and how to look at prioritizing based on proven exercises. But then we kind of look at tasks. So I use my diary extensively. That's something that I didn't used to do. I used to remember, keep lots in my head. But then I wondered why I wasn't sleeping at night or be able to get to sleep, because I realized I was keeping a lot in my head. And someone gave me some advice, is write down to get it out of your head. I evolved that into using my diary in a more efficient way. So from reading Stephen Covey's book and put into practice some of his examples of, I guess, how to try and be more effective, I kind of have evolved my calendar into the default diary. So what are the things that you do? Oh, sorry, got distracted. See, there I got distracted. Something popped up. Now, I would say I planned that, but you see how easy it is just to kind of go, hang on a second, I'm just going to look at what's just popped up. And suddenly what you were doing has been totally sideswiped. That was planned, that was. So you can see how here, you've got in here, I got my default. So what do I do every day? What do I need to do every week? And plan it in your diary. So I know it's in there. I need to do it. It doesn't matter when, I just need to do it. To my daily, weekly, monthly activities. So I plan them in the diary. And my diary, if I've got something, I'll plan it for a whole month if it's a weekly or a daily task. And if it's a monthly task, it'll go on for 6 or 7 months, and I'll review it. But it allows me to see and plan my time more efficiently by seeing what I've already got booked, so I don't get double booked. I have to be honest, there was a time when I had client meetings where I'd have to phone and apologize because I double booked myself, because I didn't plan effectively. And I'm sure we can all relate to the double bookings and the things that we missed because we didn't plan it properly or efficiently. So think about, for you, think about the things that you do, probably without thinking sometimes, but takes your time, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and the annual tasks, when your insurance is due for renewal, when your phone contract is up for renewal. These are all things you know are going to happen, and therefore plan them in your diary so that you don't have to remember it. The system, the diary, will pop up and tell you this is due. And the only advice I give on top of that is allow a reminder to give you enough time to do something about it. So a reminder the day before your insurance is due for renewal is probably not helpful, although it's better than nothing at all. Okay, so that's the default diary. Think about the things that you do on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Then we get into a concept called batching. And this is where if you do something, so one of the conversations I've had a lot of recently is about writing social media posts. And, you know, if you're going to post something weekly, I used to do this, I used to write it the night before marketing wanted it to post it. And then I do that every week, and it'd be inefficient use of my time, because you get your head in a certain mode for the writing of those articles. So I learned to actually do 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 weeks in advance that I write in half a day, or my whole day I put aside, and batch that process. So that was a more efficient use of my time, because my head was already in the zone for writing the posts. So I didn't have to keep starting, stopping, and getting myself back into the swing of things. So think about the things that you do, but if you spend a bit longer, you could probably do them together and therefore make a more efficient use of your time. I know from conversations that I think we all struggle to write social media posts in the first place, let alone writing several weeks worth. And that, I think, has been a key example over the last few weeks. Next, we have choose the right time. So when is the right time to do a task? Now, there are two schools on this. The first is we all work differently in terms of morning, when we are our most creative, or our evening or our afternoon, we're really good at doing something in particular, not so taxing. So I think the lesson that I've learned through my kind of career is actually I don't work effectively at certain times of day, and therefore don't plan something that requires you a lot of thought, a lot of creativity at the last time of night, when that's not your best time for it. Plan it and do it in the morning. So that's the first kind of school of thought. The second is procrastination. I think to different degrees, we all do it. I have been terrible at procrastination, and I must be honest, and I do slip back into it from time to time. When I've got a particularly horrible job I do not want to do, I will find all of the nicest things, all of the easiest things, and put those at the front of the day. And what do I get left with at the end of the day? The horrible job that I've still got to do. And I really don't want to face it any more than I did first thing in the morning. So the next kind of school of my thought is don't procrastinate. Do the things that you don't want to do but need doing first, so that get them out of the way. We talked earlier about ticking off a task and celebrating and feeling good about it. If you've just got rid of that task that you didn't want to do, that it was difficult, you had to write an email maybe that was unpleasant to complain about something, or a job that was just difficult and needed a lot of thought, do it first, get out of the way, celebrate you've done it, and then nothing else is going to be as bad as that in the day, or shouldn't. And it brings us on to just eat that frog. And that's more on the frogs later, and it relates to the book we're going to read this next month. Okay, any questions about all of that lovely time management and planning stuff? All making. Now, I was going to get tempted to go and look at the flashing thing at the top of my screen again. Another example how easily we get distracted. Okay, moving on. So some of you may have heard of Peter Drucker, and he said, you can't manage what you can't measure. So it's about every business has time. Now, if you're in a business that your time is what you bill, so consultancy, I think a lot of people here, your time is money. You need to start thinking about where you spend it, how you spend it, and start measuring it. Because if you're not measuring where you spend time, so if you're project driven, you really should be monitoring your time, where you spend, how much time you spend on what project, doing what task. Now, the screenshot is actually of Alex's time management system. So every project he works on, he logs time. And you can see on the screen that it's got how much time. It looks like 15, minute intervals. Alex, do you measure?
So basically, why I love this thing is you've just got those little stopwatches. So as soon as you need to be working on another project, you can just start that timer rolling, and then it's recording it in the background. I used to keep timesheets, and then I used to have to work them out. This does it all for you. I think it's one of the most amazing bits of software that we use. And if you're running a team, like I'm running a team, it allows everyone to log their time against projects. And then you can allow them to, you can have different rates, different pay rates and all of that. So, for me, we bid on work and then we have to deliver that work within that time or within that money, which they're basically the same thing. And this is how we measure how we do against the target that we set ourselves for.
Thank you, Alex. So, and we're not saying that you have to have something like Harvest. I use an Excel spreadsheet on whatever projects, as long as you're logging what time you're spending, because you want to be able to look at the end of a project or the end of a time you spend somewhere and actually see, has it been profitable? Has it been a good use of your time? Have you made money? Where are you spending it? So we need to kind of log it somewhere. Because you'll start thinking, is the time I spend profitable? Now, I had a concept when I run a bigger business, and someone would say, it would be, who's benefiting? If it involves time, is it time that we're billing? Is it time we're using on internal development, marketing? Who's paying for that time? Either the client's paying for that time or the business is paying for that time. And how do we justify, if the client's not paying for it, how do you justify spending time internally? What value does it bring to the business? In the same way you look at the time you sell your client, you're adding value to the client's business. And you need to take the same approach with where you spend your time internally. How do you value that time? Is it a good use of my time? What's the benefit of me doing X? What value does it bring your business? And these are things that you'll always be asking yourself, but when you're looking at a report of how much time you spend doing something, you really start to kind of understand that's a lot of time. Was it a good use of my time? Was it spent in the right place? Was it profitable? And we kind of get into test and measure, and you can see the example on screen is the red minus is where too much time has been applied to the project. So it's about, whoa, why was that? So if you get to a project and go, why did I spend more time than I quoted? There'll be reasons, and you need to be honest with those reasons, because if you're not honest as to why it's occurred, it'll happen again. And more likely, not just happen again, but get worse because you're not being honest about, we spent too much time doing this or a mistake occurred. But really look and be honest about where you're spending your time. And then we kind of get on to, as a result of what I've learned, where do I spend my time better? And this is the forever looking forwards, because you can't change what's happened. It's done. All we can do is learn from what we've reported on and go, that was a successful project, celebrate, great news. this wasn't, why not? What didn't go well? Why didn't it go well? And what do we do better or differently as a result of knowing that? And that's things that we need to keep asking ourselves to keep us focused on the future and not hold us back in the past, beating ourselves up because something didn't go so well. Okay, all that kind of makes sense. Any questions? Fantastic.
I think
so. I wanted to wrap that up, what we've just been through, into something very succinct, very easy to kind of remember, and I put it into this. So the first job is to clarify what it is you're doing, where you're spending your time. What am I about to do? Why am I doing it? Understand it, because if you can't understand it, then if you're explaining it to someone else, they're not going to understand it. And if you don't really understand it yourself, you're probably going to spend a lot of time doing something that is not going to be profitable. Prioritize it and plan it. That becomes your diary. We've talked about how we get the best out of our time in a day. We've talked about how we kind of work out what's urgent, important, not urgent, important. So prioritize it and then plan it in the diary. Plan it in the most efficient way that works for you, works for the business, works for your client. Make the time for it. If you put it in your diary, do it, or move it to a day when you are going to do it. Don't fill your diary with things that just are not going to get done because you're going to have a mess to clean up the next day, and that gets worse as you don't do the things that you committed to doing. Action it. More importantly, review it. If you don't review what you've been doing, you'll never know what you can do better to make it and improve it. And then we're back round to the next, clarify it, and we start the whole loop again. So I kind of put it together because I wanted to make all of the previous slides into one that you could take away and go, great, that makes a lot of sense. I can use that. I can make things better in my business. Any questions on that section? No, we all good? Okay, over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Paul. Some really simple ideas. Not stuff is complex. That's the stuff I love about business, that actually the things we're talking about are not complex. What you've basically got there is a daily to-do list. Now, I would recommend that you in the first instance, you write that longhand and then you start crossing that off. But as you write what you've got to do, put a number next to it, which one you're going to do first, and do that most important thing first. Realistically, for a lot of us, I would encourage you to identify the one thing that you have to do in your day and make sure you get it done. Because other things do come along, and that's a real discipline. As you go into your day, identify the one drop dead thing that you've got to get done that day, that big block, and do that first, and then you've won. And then you're on to the next thing and the next thing, but make sure you get the first thing done, because if you don't get that one thing done, you're probably not going to last too long. It will come around to get you.
Did all that make sense? I know it was a bit of a rush through, but did it all kind of very clear? Any questions?
That's good.
Because you all look dazed. It's like, wasn't that bad, was it?
It was great, Paul. I mean, the visual metaphor of those rocks in that glass, that's what you've always got to, like the guy that coaches me says all the time, Alex, you should have a virtual CEO tapping you on your shoulder saying, should you be doing that? And I think, it's like having kids. What are you doing at the moment? Are you doing what you should be doing? And that's the question that you should be asking yourself. What's your priority? What's the rock? What have we got to do today? Now, the vast improvement on that is thinking about that in advance, not just your day, but your week and your month. Because if you can get those things in place, then it will sort out your day. If you work out what you've got to do for this year, then you can break down, okay, what have I do that this month? And then you break that down to, okay, what am I doing this week? That's how you'll really start making progress in your life, because you'll start getting those big things done that you really want to get done, rather than spending your time on the crap that everyone else gives you to do. And I think that the fact is that if you don't know what you want to do, then someone else will end up telling you what they want you to do. And your life is honestly too precious to be told what to do. Yes. You've got a vision. That vision is from God. It's absolutely dependent on you to make sure that you get that thing done, and only you can get done what God has told you to do. And if you don't do it, it won't get done. So this is the kind of, this is what we're talking about, is basically getting it done. And so choose what is the one thing, will the one thing, and get that thing done. And everything else is kind of on for that. I think it's absolutely brilliant, Paul. We all need to manage our time so much better.
Yeah,